Let's now speak to someone who has expressed his concerns on Canada's housing market many times before on BNN. Joining us on the line is Hilliard MacBeth. Hilliard, good to be with you once again. I should also mention as well, you are the author of When the Bubble Bursts, Surviving the Canadian Real Estate Crash. Hilliard, do you think, though, that this effort by our government to set aside some money for StatsCan to really kind of delve into the foreign ownership issue is the right approach? Will it do anything? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think, first of all, hello, Catherine. Nice to be with you again. And I think that as the intro said, it's a token amount, and it's really just to study the best method to collect the data. So, obviously 500,000 wouldn't be anywhere near enough to actually collect the data. So it's obviously one or two or three people for a year to look at what's the best way to do it. But there's also another provision in the budget of $13.5 million, which would allow Stats Canada to fill some of the existing data gaps. And this is the bigger issue in that StatsCan was starved of money going back a few years. And in my research, I was shocked. It was a real eye-opener to find out how little data we actually collect in Canada. For instance, just to give you one example, StatsCan doesn't even have its own index of house prices. It relies on the Canadian Real Estate Association Index, which is a sales organization,
right.
An industry organization, and that may not be the best way to do it. I think the government should actually put more money behind actually knowing what's going on, not just with foreign buyers, but with domestic buyers too.
Interesting. I didn't realize that we didn't have our own government data on housing prices. That's interesting, Hilliard. Let me ask you, though, when you look at the Canadian housing market right now, and we do focus so much on whether or not the foreign ownership is the biggest issue. Do you think it is, or are we going down the wrong path?
I think it's just a symptom. It's really not the issue. I mean, obviously, if you live in Vancouver, if you live in it isn't actually just, it's not all of Vancouver. It's actually down to even certain neighborhoods in Vancouver. It's very difficult to be a homeowner, and that's unfortunate. And I'm sure that when the bubble bursts, that problem will resolve itself eventually. But it's a bigger problem, and this is a symptom. These are the kind of things that happen when you get towards the end of a bubble, where you get these crazy things happening, like people paying $1 million over asking price. And one of the signs that we are getting towards the end of the bubble is the fact that in another index, which is actually a better index, the Terranet National Bank Index, they track 11 cities, and only 4 of them are rising, and 7 of them are falling in prices. And the 4 are Toronto, Vancouver, and then 2 places close to those cities, Hamilton and Victoria. So it's really just the 2 hot sectors and 7 other really cool sectors in the country. And so you see all kinds of crazy things happening, and it's really speculation, and it's really connected to the bubble. It's a symptom.
Hilliard, let me ask this. A lot of people would say that we don't have one housing market in Canada, that it is truly made up of various regions. You just mentioned the 2 hot ones, Toronto as well as Vancouver, and the fact that they're hot and everything else is declining. Not an issue. We don't have a housing bubble. You say what to those individuals?
Well, it's interesting because I've had this question many times, and if foreign buying was the only problem, and the problem was isolated just to 2 areas, Toronto and Vancouver, which obviously both of those cities attract most of the foreign buying in Canada, then you wouldn't have had prices in Regina, Saskatoon, and Winnipeg tripling over the last 15 years. So it doesn't make any sense to say that. The whole of Canada, there's probably some exceptions in Labrador, or not to pick on them, but you know what I mean, where prices haven't risen. But generally, prices are much, much higher in Canada than they used to be. And also, in local currency terms, prices in Canada are about double what they are in the United States. So, yes, there are variations among the different markets in Canada. And you can obviously go from Vancouver, for instance, to Thunder Bay and save a pile of money, sell in Vancouver and buy in Thunder Bay. But all over Canada, there are symptoms of a housing bubble, not just in the 2 hot markets. I've seen that statement during the election. We heard it from the politicians when they were running for election, and it's just not accurate at all, at least according to my research.
You know, I hear you, and I lived in the States for many, many years working on Wall Street, and I so remember people saying, oh, no, the real estate problem is only akin to Florida and Arizona and maybe San Francisco. Don't worry about it. So that's why I bring it up. I think it's important to discuss. One last question, though. If we've got a bubble, you say when the bubble bursts, your book, what's the catalyst? What's the pin?
Well, in Vancouver, it could be as simple as the foreign buyers, who are mostly coming from Asia and mainland China, a clamp down on their ability to get the money out. I mean, apparently there's ingenious ways of getting money out, and obviously they're desperate to get money out, but at some point maybe that slows down. In Alberta, we have unemployment rising, as you already mentioned in the intro. I think pretty soon the unemployment rate in Alberta is going to surpass even what happened during the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009. So certainly house prices are falling in Alberta because of unemployment. And that would probably be, at this point, the most likely catalyst. But sometimes bubbles just collapse of their own weight. You know, if you get to the point where prices are so high that nobody can afford to buy a house, and there always are people selling for various reasons, then house prices just fall of their own weight. They don't really need anything like rising interest rates or unemployment and that sort of thing.
I hear you. Hilliard, good to be with you today. Thanks so much. Have a good long weekend.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm sure.